trying to adjust the play on the clutch fork to get enough clearance between the throwout bearing and the pressure plate. I've discovered that that hole's stripped, that hole's basically stripped, that one's not stripped. And that's how it actually holds the slave cylinder on. So what I'm going to do is, instead of it being threaded in like it is now, I'm going to go get nuts from the store, put them on the back side here, and then just run a nut on it is kind of the plan. The only thing I'm worried about is having clearance on the back side of this thing. But we're going to see. I think that'd be probably the smarter, safer solution anyway. If all else fails, we might run a slightly smaller bolt so we can run a smaller nut on those. So at the hardware store, I got some bolts that I think are going to work. Went with a slightly smaller bolt size, but it's still a grade 8, so it should hold up fine. And let's see if I have to drill these holes out. Sick. And then I got some nuts and washers. See if this is going to work. I'm going to use these washers as a spacer to bring the whole bracket out some. Get 2 of these on each one. This is probably not the best way to do this, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to torque the bell housing down. I'm probably going to do 65 foot-pounds on that. And I know you don't get the most accurate torque reading with extensions and weebles and converters, but it'll be good enough. Everything in this car is super tight, so I can't get a torque wrench down in here. So I'm just doing it with a wrench, getting it nice and tight. I'll do that for the both top ones, just because I can't get a torque wrench in here. But it should be alright. I've done it before. The transmission is, I've got to install the starter. I can do it with the transmission in, it's just easier without it. Gives you a little more room to work. It should be pretty simple though. It's just 2 bolts. Not really a pain in the ass, but the top bolt can be, especially getting a wrench in there, just because there's not a lot of room to work. And then the other thing is, if you have your starter wired up, and I wouldn't suggest leaving it hanging by the wires, but if you leave it wired up while you're, say, taking the transmission out, like I did, your wires are usually hot unless you disconnect the battery, or you run a secondary solenoid on the fender of the car, which I can show you that in a minute. But what it does is it keeps the power from being down here, so you can just put a wrench up in here. Ooh, that knocked you off. And not have to worry about welding to the frame whenever you hit something hot. That's pretty cool. Really convenient, especially if you're doing stuff like this, or if you're at the track. What's really good is if you happen to run into something, like the power wire on my car is, I'll see if you can see it. Power wire's right here. Well, my frame's only right here, so if I hit it wall real hard, which hopefully that never happens, there's the possibility of this wire
coming in contact with this metal frame, which just increases your chance of having a fire because there's arcing. But right now, this has no power because of that solenoid up top. So after I replace the shift forks on the transmission, put the shifter back on to test to make sure every gear seemed to be working before I throw this thing back in the car. And it does. Every gear seems to work. And of course that's the wrong size. Which is nice. I hope that fixed my shifting issue. Because before it wouldn't go into second, or it'd want to pop out of second all the time. But hopefully that's a thing that lasts. Kind of open this thing up before I put it in the car. And I'll put this thing in real quick. So I'm actually getting to put the transmission in. If you ever put one in by yourself, you know they're quite heavy, and I'm lazy. So I've got this pretty neat little transmission jack. These kind of cables in the way, but what I'll do is I'm gonna lift it up onto here. I'll put it up, kind of line everything up, jack the transmission jack up, slide it right in. No trying to balance an 80-pound transmission over my head. So the transmission's back in. It's filled with fluids. Now I just need to torque it to the bell housing and bleed the clutch, put the exhaust back on, test and make sure everything works, and then I should be done with this job. Hopefully. Guess it's too big. What size is this? Maybe it's, huh? Oh, 9/16. But I guess it's a 15 mil. Needs more extension. I guess. All right. Torquing these bolts down to 50 foot-pounds, which should be plenty, but because they're going into an aluminum casing, I don't want to over-torque them and risk stripping the bolts. Or stripping the bell housing, rather. Somebody's calling me. Who the fuck's calling me? What's going on, Mr. Josh? Alright, so the last bolt needs to be torqued down. I'm going to get rid of most of these extensions. Let's see. Let's just use piece one. Go. Tension, wiggle, torque wrench. There we go. Underneath should all be done. Drive shaft's in. It's tight. Only thing I've got to do with that is I need to grease the Zert fitting in the rear U-joint. The front one doesn't have one for some reason. I'm not sure why. But the rear does. Transmission's all in, torque down, shifter's on it. Got the slave cylinder in. All I got to do there is bleed it, check and make sure the clutch engages fully. I'm hoping it does. Otherwise I got to do some adjusting on it. Either way, it shouldn't be too bad. As you can see, I got the new clutch in there. Starter's on. So now all I need is to bleed this, put the exhaust in, get the radiator back, put it in, hook everything else back up, and we should be good to go.